Hello, Shelley from Spin Cushions here, and today I'm going to show you how to make this square called Beaufort from my Siren's Atlas collection. It's quite fun with lots of clusters and a few spike stitches, and it's a very solid one too. Anyway, I'm going to make mine all, oops, excuse me. Yes, I'm going to make mine all in a single colour. If you need to do anything different if you're changing colours, I'll let you know, but mostly it'll be much the same, this one. Okay, so I'm going to start with a magic circle. You can start with a strip of 3 or 4 chain joined into a loop if you like. And our first round is chain 3 starting chain, or a false stitch as I like to do. And then we're going to do 11 trebles UK or doubles US in the hole. So we're going to end up with 12 stitches in total. Let's do 3, so I will do my 12 stitches and show you how to finish off and start the next round. Okay, 12 stitches are done. Now I just need to pull my magic circle tight and join with a slip stitch to my first stitch, whether that's the top of your chain 3 starting chain or false stitch. Alright, now the next round is quite easy. We're going to do chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch. And then we're going to do a front post stitch, treble UK WS, around the same stitch that we slip stitched into. So that one just straight down below. That would be your chain 3 if you had done that instead of a false stitch. Then we do a stitch in the next stitch and a front post stitch around the same stitch. So every stitch has a stitch worked into it and around it. So we're going to end up with 24 stitches this time. So I'll do that all the way around and I'll show you what happens next. Alright, all of my stitches are done, and again I'm just going to join with a slip stitch to my first stitch. Find the stitch properly. Alright, okay, the next round we're going to do double crochets UK, single crochets US, and some of them will be spike stitches, but we start with a stitch in the same place as our first stitch, as our slip stitch. Then we do a stitch in the next stitch, so that front post stitch. Then we're going to do a spike stitch. See this big gap down here, down below in round 1? That's where we're doing our spike stitch. So pull up a long loop. Then we do a stitch in the next 2 stitches. And then a spike stitch right down below. So that's that. 2 stitches and a spike into the gaps in round 1 all the way around. I'll do that and show you what's next. Okay, so I've done all of my stitches. You'll end with a spike stitch, and then we just need to join with a slip stitch to our first stitch, and we'll move on to round 4. So I'm going to chain 3 starting chain or false stitch. Then we're going to do a treble UK or a WS in the next stitch. Then we're going to chain 1, and in the next stitch, which is the spike stitch, we're going to do a 3 treble cluster or a 3 double cluster. So you start a treble crochet or a double crochet, and then start another one, and then start a third one. And when you get to this point with the 4 loops on hook, you yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to do a treble UK WS in the next 2 stitches. So in every normal stitch of the round before, we're doing a normal stitch, and in every spike stitch we're doing a cluster with 1 chain space on either side. So I will do that all the way around and show you what happens next. Just finish off this cluster first. Oops. Yep, 1, 2, 3, that's it. Chain 1. Okay, I'll do that all the way around and show you what's next. Okay, so there we go, I've done all of that. Don't be concerned about it being ruffled at this point, it will all straighten out eventually. So I've done my chain 1, that's the last stitch of the round. And again, I'm going to join with a slip stitch to my first stitch. Alright, and this round again we're going to be doing double crochets UK, single crochets US all the way around. Some of them are going to be front posts, but most of them are just going to be normal stitches. So we do 1 in the same place as our slip stitch, then a stitch in the next stitch, and this is the start of our repeat. 1 in the 1 chain space, Then we're going to do a front post stitch around that cluster, and then one in the one chain space on the other side, and then one in the next 2 stitches. So one in each space, one in each stitch, and a front post around each of our clusters. So I'll do that all the way around and show you what's next. Alright, I've done that all the way around. You can see it's a bit flatter now. And we just need to join with a slip stitch to our first stitch. And we should have 60 stitches at the end of this round. Just put it through the right spot. Alright, next round is very, very easy. We're doing trebles UK or doubles US. So we start with chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch, and then just 1 stitch in every stitch around. So we're going to have 60 stitches again. I'm sure you don't need to see me do that, so I'll do that all the way around and show you what's next. Okay, so that's all done. 60 stitches. You need to join with a slip stitch to your first stitch. Now we're going to start squaring off. We're going to do it a bit of an unusual way. So we're going to start off with chain 3 starting chain or a false stitch. Then we're going to do a 4 treble cluster UK terms or a 4 double cluster US terms in the same stitch that we joined our slip stitch to. So we start 4 stitches but don't finish them off. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this part now. Hook and go through all of them. Then we're going to chain 1, and in the next stitch we're going to do 5 treble cluster UK terms or 5 double cluster US terms. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook. Then we're going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and we'll do a half treble UK or a half double US in the next 2 stitches. Then we're going to do a double crochet UK, single crochet US in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then a half in the next 2. Then we're going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and do a 5 treble UK or 5 double US cluster in the next stitch. 3, 4, 5, finish it off, chain 1, and we'll do a 5 treble cluster, 5 treble cluster UK, 5 double cluster US in the next stitch as well. Chain 1, so that cluster there is actually our corner, and we're going to start the side again now by doing a 5 stitch cluster in the next stitch again. So the sides begin and end with a cluster, and the corner is a cluster, so there's like 3 clusters in each corner. That's that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we chain 1, skip 1, do our stitches along the side. So I'll do that all the way around and I'll show you what happens next. Alright, so we started to go square. Now if you started with chain 3 and a 4 treble cluster, I should have started with chain 3, because I meant to show you that it's best to join with a slip stitch to the top of that cluster, not your chain 3. If you're doing a false stitch, you can actually do a false stitch and incorporate it into your cluster, so it would be like a 5 treble cluster at the start. But for this description's sake, I'll join to the top of the cluster is the best way to go. Okay, round 8. We're going to do double crochets UK, single crochets US, 2 of them in the same place as our slip stitch, which is that cluster. Oops, what have I done there? Then we are going to do a stitch in the one chain space. Then we're going to do a front post stitch around this cluster. Then we're going to do a spike stitch in this stitch that we skipped from the round before. Then we're going to do a double crochet UK, single crochet US in the next 10 stitches. Just make sure I've got the, yep, don't miss that first one there. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, it's a weird angle for me. Goodness me. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're going to do a spike stitch in this stitch that we skipped from the round before. Then we're going to do a front post stitch around this cluster. Then we'll do a stitch in that one chain space. And in the corner, which is the next stitch, we're going to do 2 stitches, chain 2, 2 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 2 chain, and 2 more stitches. Okay, so we do that all the way around and come back and I'll show you what happens next. Okay, so I've done all my repeats, pardon me. So now I just need to do a stitch in the same place as our first stitch, which is that cluster here. Now, if you're changing colours, chain 2, join with a slip stitch. If you're not changing colours, chain 1, grab a scrap of yarn and poke it in the gap before you join up. And we're going to join with a double crochet UK or a single crochet US instead of a slip stitch. So that piece of yarn will come in very handy in just a moment. Okay, now the next round is all double crochets UK, single crochets US, and the first one is over the joining stitch, which is where that stitch marker is. It just makes it nice and easy to find. And then we're simply going to do a stitch in every stitch along the side, and there should be 20 stitches along the side. And in each corner we'll do 1 stitch, chain 2, 1 stitch. So I'll do that all the way around and show you how to finish off this round. Alright, there we go. So now we just need to do a stitch in the same place as our first stitches. Now last time I just did 1 stitch, I was meant to do 2. So but this time it is definitely only 1. So it's at the same place where that stitch marker is. Chain 1, move your stitch marker up, join with a double crochet UK, single crochet US, and then we basically just do the same round again. So start with 1 over the joining stitch, then 1 in every stitch along the side, which will be 22 stitches this time. And again, 1 stitch, 2 chain, 1 stitch in the corners. I will do that all the way around and show you what it looks like at the end. Alright, I've gone all the way around. Pardon me, I just need to do a stitch in the same place as our first stitch where that stitch marker is. I can take that out now. Then we're going to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch because this is our final round. And there you have it. Weave in your ends. And this one can do with a little bit of a block to make it nice and flat. So let's have a look. You can see they're pretty much the same. It will be ever so slightly bigger once it's blocked, the Bendigo Wool & Mills cotton. This is Cascade Ultra Pima cotton. So there you go. That is Beaufort from my Siren's Atlas collection. Make sure you head to spincushions.com for more crochet fun, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.